Hey there, you're looking kind of cute. Don't forget to subscribe and check out all my other socials. Enjoy. The old Chevy rumbled down the dusty country road, kicking up clouds of dirt in its wake. Orlando gripped the steering wheel tightly, his knuckles turning white as he approached the familiar white farmhouse in the distance. His heart raced, pulse quickening with each mile that brought him closer to Aunt Sylvia's annual family gathering. He'd always dreaded these visits. Year after year, it was the same routine, Aunt Sylvia's well-meaning but misguided attempts to set him up with the daughters of her friends. The awkward small talk, the forced smiles, the barely concealed disappointment when he didn't hit it off with whichever girl she'd selected this time. But this year was different. This year, Orlando had a plan. He glanced at the overnight bag on the passenger seat, containing the clothes and makeup he'd carefully selected. For months, he'd been preparing for this moment, practicing his walk, his voice, perfecting his appearance. Today, he wouldn't arrive as Orlando. He'd arrive as Mia. The gravel crunched under the tires as Orlando pulled into the long driveway. He parked behind a row of other cars. Clearly, some guests had already arrived. Taking a deep breath, he grabbed his bag and stepped out of the car. The warm summer air enveloped him as he made his way to the back of the car. He popped the trunk, revealing a small suitcase. Glancing furtively around to make sure no one was watching, Orlando quickly changed into the outfit he'd chosen, a flowing floral sundress, sandals, and a wide-brimmed hat to frame his carefully made-up face. Heart pounding, he smoothed down the dress and took another deep breath. This was it. There was no turning back now. As he approached the house, voices and laughter drifted from the backyard. Orlando, now Mia, steeled herself and rounded the corner. The chatter died down as heads turned. Aunt Sylvia, holding court near the grill, froze mid-sentence, her eyes widening in shock. "Orlando?" she gasped, taking a few halting steps forward. Is that you?" Mia smiled nervously. "Hi, Aunt Sylvia. Actually, it's Mia now." A hush fell over the gathering. Mia could feel dozens of eyes on her, scrutinizing every detail of her appearance. She resisted the urge to fidget with her dress or touch her wig. Aunt Sylvia blinked rapidly, as if trying to clear her vision. I don't understand what's going on." Mia took a deep breath. "I've been wanting to tell you for a long time. I'm transgender. I've always felt like a woman inside, and I've decided to start living as my true self." The silence stretched on for what felt like an eternity. Mia's heart pounded so loudly she was sure everyone could hear it. She braced herself for the worst: anger, disgust, rejection. But then, to her utter amazement, Aunt Sylvia's face softened. "Oh, honey," she said, stepping forward and enveloping Mia in a warm hug. "I had no idea. I'm so sorry if I ever made you uncomfortable with my matchmaking schemes." Tears pricked at Mia's eyes as she returned the embrace. "It's okay," she whispered. "You didn't know." Aunt Sylvia pulled back, holding Mia at arm's length to look her over. "Well," she said with a watery smile, "you certainly make a beautiful woman. That dress is lovely on you." A weight Mia hadn't even realized she'd been carrying lifted from her shoulders. She laughed, a sound of pure relief and joy. "Thank you," she said. "I was so nervous about how you'd react." Aunt Sylvia waved a hand dismissively. "Nonsense. You're family, and we love you no matter what. Now come on. Let's get you something to drink, and you can tell me all about this journey of yours." As Aunt Sylvia led her to the refreshment table, Mia caught snippets of whispered conversations from the other guests. Some seemed confused, others curious. A few older relatives were frowning disapprovingly, but Mia tried to ignore them. What mattered most was that Aunt Sylvia had accepted her. "So," Aunt Sylvia said as she handed Mia a glass of lemonade, "how long have you known?" Mia took a sip, grateful for the cool liquid. "I think I've always known deep down," she admitted, "but I only really started to accept it and explore my identity about a year ago." Aunt Sylvia nodded thoughtfully. "And your parents? Do they know?" A shadow crossed Mia's face. "Not yet," she said quietly. I I'm not sure how they'll take it. That's part of why I wanted to tell you first. I thought maybe if you accepted me, it might help them come around. Aunt Sylvia reached out and squeezed Mia's hand. Of course I'll help however I can, she said firmly. Have you started any medical treatments yet? Hormones or anything like that? Mia shook her head. No, not yet. I've been doing a lot of research, but it's all so overwhelming and expensive. A determined look came over Aunt Sylvia's face. Well, we'll just have to see what we can do about that. I may not know much about all this transgender stuff, but I do know how to navigate the healthcare system. And I've got some savings set aside. I always thought I'd use it to help pay for your wedding someday, but I think this is a much better use for it. Tears welled up in Mia's eyes again. Aunt Sylvia, I can't ask you to do that. You're not asking, I'm offering, Aunt Sylvia said firmly. Now enough of this emotional talk. Let's enjoy the party. I want to introduce you to everyone properly. As Mia. As they made their way through the gathering, Mia was touched by how many of her relatives made an effort to use her new name and pronouns. Even if they stumbled a bit at first, there were a few uncomfortable moments. An uncle who pointedly avoided eye contact. A cousin who asked some invasive questions. But overall, the acceptance was far greater than Mia had dared to hope for. As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the backyard, Aunt Sylvia pulled Mia aside. I have a surprise for you, she said with a mischievous glint in her eye. Come with me. Curious, Mia followed her aunt into the house and up the stairs to the guest room. Aunt Sylvia threw open the closet door with a flourish, revealing a rack full of women's clothes. I've been collecting these for years, Aunt Sylvia explained. Whenever I saw a good sale or a piece I thought would look nice on you, well, on the women I was trying to set you up with, but now I realize they were meant for you all along. Mia ran her fingers over the soft fabrics, marveling at the array of colors and styles. Aunt Sylvia, this is incredible, she breathed. Try something on, Aunt Sylvia urged. I want to see how they look on you. For the next hour, Mia felt like a princess in a fairy tale, trying on outfit after outfit while Aunt Sylvia offered advice and encouragement. They laughed together over some of the more outrageous pieces, and Mia felt a warmth in her chest that had nothing to do with the summer heat. As she modeled a particularly flattering blouse and skirt combination, Aunt Sylvia clapped her hands in delight. Oh, Mia, you look wonderful. You know, I have just the necklace to go with that outfit. Wait here. She hurried out of the room, returning a few minutes later with a small jewelry box. Inside was a delicate silver pendant in the shape of a butterfly. This was my mother's, your grandmother's, Aunt Sylvia explained as she fastened it around Mia's neck. She always said butterflies reminded her of transformation and new beginnings. I think she'd want you to have it. Mia touched the pendant gently, overcome with emotion. Thank you, she whispered, for everything. Aunt Sylvia pulled her into another hug. You're welcome, sweetheart. I'm just so glad you trusted me enough to share this part of yourself. Now what do you say we go back downstairs and show off your new look? As they descended the stairs, Mia felt a newfound confidence. The fear and anxiety that had plagued her for so long began to melt away, replaced by a sense of hope and possibility. The gathering was winding down, with only a few guests remaining. As Mia stepped into the living room, conversations halted once again. But this time, instead of shock or confusion, she was met with smiles and compliments. You look lovely, dear, her great-aunt Mildred said, patting Mia's hand. That color suits you perfectly. Even the uncle, who had avoided her earlier, approached hesitantly. I'm sorry if I seemed rude before, he mumbled. This is all new to me, but you seem happy, and that's what matters, right? Mia nodded, grateful for even this small step towards understanding. As the last of the guests said their goodbyes, Aunt Sylvia pulled Mia aside once more. I've been thinking, she said. Why don't you stay here for a while? Give yourself some time to fully embrace living as Mia before you face the rest of the world. I can help you practice your makeup. We can go shopping for more clothes. Maybe even find a support group in town. Mia hesitated. Are you sure? I don't want to impose. Aunt Sylvia waved away her concerns. Nonsense. This old house has been too quiet since your uncle passed. It'll do me good to have some company. And besides, she added with a wink, I've got years of missed girl talk to catch up on with my niece. Laughing, Mia agreed. As she helped Aunt Sylvia clean up the remnants of the party, she marveled at how differently the day had turned out from what she'd expected. She'd come prepared for rejection and conflict, but instead found acceptance and love. That night, as Mia lay in bed surrounded by her new clothes and the quiet of the countryside, she felt a peace she hadn't experienced in years. She knew there would still be challenges ahead, telling her parents, navigating medical transitions, facing the wider world as her true self. But for the first time, those challenges didn't seem insurmountable. She touched the butterfly pendant at her throat, thinking of transformations and new beginnings. With Aunt Sylvia's support, she felt ready to spread her wings and embrace the journey ahead. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of activity. True to her word, Aunt Sylvia threw herself into helping Mia with her transition with the same enthusiasm she'd once applied to matchmaking. They spent long afternoons poring over makeup tutorials on YouTube, giggling like schoolgirls as they experimented with different looks. Aunt Sylvia's steady hand proved invaluable as Mia learned to apply eyeliner without poking herself in the eye. The key is confidence, Aunt Sylvia would say, demonstrating with a flourish. Even if you make a mistake, own it. Half the time, no one else will even notice. Shopping trips to the nearby town became a regular occurrence. At first, Mia was nervous about venturing out in public, but Aunt Sylvia's unwavering support bolstered her courage. They'd make a day of it, trying on clothes and accessories, stopping for lunch at quaint cafes where Aunt Sylvia would regale Mia with stories from her youth. You know, Aunt Sylvia mused one day as they sipped lattes, I always wondered why none of my setups ever worked out for you. I thought maybe you were just picky or shy, but now it all makes sense. You weren't looking for a girlfriend, you were looking to be the girlfriend. Mia nearly choked on her drink, but she had to laugh. I guess you could say that, she admitted, though I'm not sure I'm ready to think about dating just yet. Aunt Sylvia patted her hand. All in good time, dear. For now, let's focus on getting you comfortable in your own skin. And focus they did. Aunt Sylvia helped Mia practice walking in heels, offering pointers on posture and gait. They worked on voice training, with Mia spending hours in front of the mirror, trying to find a tone and cadence that felt natural. Some days were harder than others. Mia would catch a glimpse of herself in the mirror and feel a wave of dysphoria wash over her, seeing only the masculine features she was trying to soften. On those days, Aunt Sylvia seemed to have a sixth sense for when Mia needed extra support. She'd appear with a cup of tea and a sympathetic ear, or suggest they take a walk in the sprawling gardens behind the house. As they strolled among the roses and lilacs, Aunt Sylvia would share stories of her own struggles and triumphs, reminding Mia that everyone's path to self-discovery had its share of obstacles. I remember when I was about your age, Aunt Sylvia said one evening as they sat on the porch swing, watching the fireflies dance in the twilight. I thought I had my whole life figured out. I was engaged to be married, had a job lined up at the local bank, but something felt off. She paused, lost in thought for a moment. Long story short, I called off the wedding, quit the job, and went backpacking through Europe for a year. My parents thought I'd lost my mind, but it was the best decision I ever made. I came back knowing who I really was, and what I wanted out of life. Mia listened, fascinated. She'd always seen Aunt Sylvia as this unshakable pillar of strength and certainty. It was oddly comforting to know that even she had grappled with questions of identity and purpose. The point is, Aunt Sylvia continued, life rarely goes according to plan, but that's not always a bad thing. Sometimes the detours lead us exactly where we need to be. As the weeks turned into months, Mia felt herself growing more comfortable in her identity. The fear and hesitation that had marked her early days of presenting as female began to fade, replaced by a quiet confidence. She started volunteering at the local library, grateful for the opportunity to interact with people who had never known her as anyone but Mia. The librarians were kind and welcoming, and Mia found herself looking forward to the shifts spent shelving books and helping patrons. It was during one of these shifts that Mia had an unexpected encounter. She was reshelving books in the psychology section when a voice behind her made her jump. "Excuse me, I'm looking for books on gender identity. Could you point me in the right direction?" Mia turned to find a young woman about her age with short, spiky hair and a nervous expression. For a moment, Mia froze, her heart racing. Was it that obvious that she was transgender? Had this stranger somehow clocked her? But as she met the woman's eyes, Mia realized the nervousness wasn't directed at her, but rather at the subject matter being discussed. Taking a deep breath, Mia smiled. "Of course," she said, leading the woman to a nearby shelf. "We have quite a good selection. Are you looking for anything in particular? Personal accounts, medical information, support for family members?" The woman blinked, seeming surprised by Mia's matter-of-fact tone. I guess a bit of everything. I'm just starting to explore some things about myself, and I'm not really sure where to begin." Mia nodded understandingly. "I've been there," she said softly. "It can be overwhelming at first, but knowledge is power, right? Here, let me show you some of the books I found most helpful when I was first coming out." As Mia pulled various titles from the shelves, explaining a bit about each one, she saw the tension in the woman's shoulders start to ease. By the time they'd assembled a small stack of books, the woman was smiling. "Thank you so much," she said. "I was so nervous about even coming in here to look for these. I didn't expect to find someone so knowledgeable and understanding." Mia felt a warmth spread through her chest. "I'm glad I could help," she said sincerely. "And if you ever want to talk more or need resources beyond books, feel free to ask for me. I'm Mia, by the way." "I'm Rachel," the woman replied, "and I might just take you up on that offer." As Rachel checked out her books and left, Mia felt a sense of purpose she hadn't experienced before. She'd been so focused on her own journey, but now she realized she might be in a position to help others just starting out on theirs. That evening, as she recounted the interaction to Aunt Sylvia over dinner, an idea began to form. "I was thinking," Mia said hesitantly, pushing her peas around her plate, "what if we started some kind of support group for people questioning their gender identity or just starting to transition? There's nothing like that in this area, and I know from experience how isolating it can feel." Aunt Sylvia's eyes lit up. "That's a wonderful idea. We could host meetings here at the house. Lord knows we have the space. And I could bake cookies." Mia laughed. "I'm not sure cookies are a necessary component of a support group, Aunt Sylvia." "Nonsense," Aunt Sylvia replied with a wave of her fork. "Everything's better with cookies. Now, let's start planning. We'll need to put up flyers, maybe reach out to some local counselors for referrals." As they brainstormed late into the night, Mia felt a surge of excitement. She'd come so far from that nervous person who'd arrived at the family gathering months ago, terrified of rejection. Now she was planning to actively help others on similar journeys. The next few weeks were a flurry of preparation. They cleared out the old study, transforming it into a cozy meeting space with comfortable chairs and soft lighting. Aunt Sylvia, true to her word, experimented with various cookie recipes, determined to find the perfect comforting snack. Mia designed flyers and distributed them around town, at the library, coffee shops, the community center. She even screwed up her courage to approach her doctor about referring patients who might benefit from the group. The night of the first meeting arrived, and Mia found herself pacing nervously in front of the house. What if no one showed up? What if they did show up, but she didn't know what to say? What if her spiraling thoughts were interrupted by the crunch of gravel as a car pulled into the driveway? Rachel stepped out, offering a shy wave. "I hope it's okay that I came," she said. "I saw the flyer at the library, and, well, I could use some support." Mia felt her nervousness melt away. "Of course it's okay," she said warmly. "Come on in. Aunt Sylvia's got enough cookies to feed an army." Over the next half hour, more people trickled in. Some Mia recognized from around town, others were complete strangers. There was a mix of ages and presentations, some clearly already living as their true gender, others still in the questioning stages. As they settled into the study, munching on Aunt Sylvia's admittedly delicious cookies, Mia took a deep breath and began, "Welcome, everyone. I'm Mia, and I'm so glad you're all here. I know how scary it can be to take this step, to admit even to yourself that you might be questioning your gender identity. But I want you to know that you're not alone. We're all here to support each other on this journey." As the meeting progressed, Mia was amazed at the openness and vulnerability displayed by the attendees. People shared their fears, their hopes, their struggles. There were tears, but also laughter and moments of profound connection. By the end of the evening, as people exchanged phone numbers and made plans to meet up outside the group, Mia felt a sense of accomplishment she'd never experienced before. She'd created a space where people could be their authentic selves, perhaps for the first time in their lives. As the last person left, Aunt Sylvia appeared at Mia's side, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. "I'm so proud of you," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "You've come so far, and now you're helping others do the same. Your grandmother would be over the moon." Mia woke early the next morning, her heart still buzzing from the success of the first support group meeting. As she made her way downstairs, the delicious scent of fresh brewed coffee guided her into the kitchen. Aunt Sylvia, already dressed and bustling around the room, waved her coffee cup in greeting. "Morning, sunshine. Sleep well?" Mia yawned, rubbing her eyes. "Better than I have in a long time. I guess all that hard work yesterday paid off." "It certainly did," Aunt Sylvia beamed, setting a mug of coffee in front of Mia. "And it looks like your hard work is just beginning." Mia raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" "Well," Aunt Sylvia began, her eyes twinkling mischievously, "now that you've helped organize a group to support others, it's time we focused on supporting you in a different way." A sense of unease began to creep over Mia as her aunt's words hinted at something more. "I'm not sure I follow. What do you mean, support me?" Aunt Sylvia took a deep breath, as if gathering her courage. "I want to help you embrace your femininity, Mia, fully and completely, and I think I have just the thing." What do you mean?" Mia asked, a knot forming in her stomach. With a flourish, Aunt Sylvia lifted a nearby pillow, revealing a large, beautifully wrapped gift box. "Happy 1-year anniversary of coming out, dear niece. I believe this will help you embrace the woman you truly are." Mia's breath caught in her throat as she stared at the box. Part of her wanted to rip it open immediately, while another part was suddenly filled with trepidation. What could be in this box that her aunt thought would help her? "Go on, open it," Aunt Sylvia urged. "I can't wait to see your reaction." With trembling hands, Mia untied the ribbon and carefully removed the wrapping, revealing a white box tied with a delicate pink bow. As she opened the lid, a rush of emotions hit her. Curiosity, excitement, and a healthy dose of anxiety. Thanks for watching. The rest won't be viewable on YouTube, so check out Patreon if you want more. I hope you have a wonderful day, my cutie.